What was the biggest lie you were told?
It's not that simple.
Why not?
No, that's the biggest lie I was ever told. It's not that simple. And it's a lie they tell you over and over again.
Good evening. Rhode Island's own Tasmanian Devil is in Kent County Memorial Hospital tonight with a fractured neck.
Newswatch 10 has obtained these photographs taken at the accident scene not long after it happened. He, the driver of the other car, and Pazienza were all taken to the emergency room at Kent County Memorial Hospital. The hospital wasn't being specific today, but you needed only to look at Vinny's family, his father Angelo, to understand the concern.
I walk in, I see my boy laid out, stiff, he can't move, he says, I am dead, and the tears are coming out of my eyes.
If he slipped his vertebrae perhaps 4 or 5 millimeters further, he would be quadriplegic.
And I wanted people to know that I am okay, that I will survive this. At first, when I came in here, I had tears in my eyes. I thought it was going to be over, and Dr. Carter had a tear in his eye. I could tell he felt for me. And he said, son, I'm sorry to say you're not going to box again. And I looked at him. I said, no, Dr. Carter, you're wrong. I am going to box again. He said, you don't understand what kind of man I am.
Ladies and gentlemen, from Providence, Rhode Island, the 3-time champion of the world, the Tasmanian Devil, Vinny Pazienza!
It's no secret that boxing and every combat sport requires you to give a little more, push a little bit harder than any normal competition. Your body is on the line in a way that's not comparable to something like football or basketball, and although injuries happen in those sports, injuries in boxing can be life-ending. But then there's the story of a man called Vinny Paz, who suffered a near life-ending accident. Doctors told him he'd never walk again, and yet against every warning and every scrap of common sense, he went from that to stepping back into the ring a champion.
He is a former IBF lightweight champion of the world, and tonight is the challenger. Here is Vinny Pazienza.
And, well, to truly understand this impossible human achievement, you have to understand just who and what kind of human Vinny Pazienza was. Now, from the outside, Vinny's American upbringing wasn't that much different from many others. He started life out in Rhode Island, born into an Italian-American family. He went to school like every other kid, but Vinny quickly grew into the kind of fast-talking, confident boy that once he found boxing, he absolutely fell in love. His dad was a big fan of the sport and would go to watch fights live, and Vinny saw this as a chance to prove that he wasn't maybe the biggest member of his family or even the strongest, but he had something you absolutely couldn't teach. He had heart, determination, and a goal to become the best in the world. Well, to prove everyone wrong, essentially. Boxing took over his childhood and he quickly developed into an aggressive and relentless competitor. In 1983, he took those dreams pro and entered the lightweight division looking to cause havoc. Immediately, fans and broadcasters started to notice the swagger he had with him, the air of confidence, and the absolute authority he attacked his opponents with. In just over 1 year as a pro, Vinny absolutely rampaged through the lightweight ranks, winning 14 fights in a row, with all but one of them bulldozing KOs. He even returned to Italy to take on their talents as well.
Colorful, very flashy. We'll see how he handles things tonight here in Italy. Extremely outgoing and loquacious. And Vinny Paz should feel right at home here in Italy. Arthur?
Yes, seemingly seems to be coming in with a little scar tissue above both eyes, which shows that he's a veteran, and his record indicates that he's been around a long time.
Vinny's hand speed was on display as he increased his workload over the night.
As you can see, Vinny Paz is lightning quick. Seemingly looking to back Pazienza into the corner, and the quickness of Paz able to slip and slide away. He just scrambled out of trouble.
You can see signs of the effectiveness of Pazienza's jabs on Seemingly's face. He's really taking it now around the head. I notice that Paz is really striking for the head more in this fight than he is for the body.
Vinny's footwork was also seriously impressive. He took big steps across the canvas, closing the distance and angling out to land his shots and get out with ease. He was given the nickname the Tasmanian Devil. because his opponents would always slow down under his offense and Vinny would only turn it up even more.
Vinny Pazienza, a whirling dervish coming at his opponent at all angles.
Ring. It's a small ring. It looks like it's probably an 18-footer, and of course that speeds up the fight.
Vinny Paz goes right back at Bruno Simile, and that is it.
Yeah, that's it. That was a wise move on the part of the referee.
As the win streak increased, Vinny made it pretty clear he wasn't your average boxer trying to knock you out. He wanted to break you, to make you quit under his relentless offense until you decided you just couldn't take any more. By 1987, Vinny was 23-1 and fighting for his first world title, the IBF lightweight strap against the long-reigning champion Greg Horgan. Now this guy did not like Vinny. He thought he was arrogant and a showboat. He called him a punk, a clown, but the fight went down in Vinny's hometown and the crowd hailed him as a hero already.
Scheduled for 15. You would have to search your memory to hear the kind of ovation that the challenger got and no ovation for the championship. For the challenger, of course, it's his hometown. But Horgan looks completely calm and in control. He's fighting the kind of fight he wants to fight.
Like most Vinny fights, it was a war where both traded punches, but Paz never turned off the gas, keeping up the pressure all night, even with a broken nose.
And Pazienza with a possible broken nose. And both men beginning to show the effects of this battle, which is... And much confidence being shown here by Vinny Pazienza, opening up with that combination a moment ago.
By the 8th, Greg was starting to slow a little, but Paz only came harder.
Vinny Pazienza is fighting this fight as if it were a 10-round fight.
This war continued right up until the 15th round, where Vinny showed he was truly world championship material.
Now trying to provide the spark for the hometown favorite, Vinny Pazienza. 15th and final round. We're under a minute to go in the 15th.
And this fight was just a classic Pazienza bout.
Coming up on 10 seconds left in the fight. Strong finish by Pazienza. So they go the distance.
Vinny had done enough to take home the decision and the IBF lightweight title. Although Greg had disagreed and called the judges all Italian playing favourites in the rematch the following year, this time around, apparently Vinny wasn't really training like a champion, with late nights and bad habits, and now in the spotlight and not enough time in the gym. Both men would again go 15, with Greg taking home the win this time. These fights though had shown just how high level and effective Pazienza could be, that his style made for championship material, and after 2 more KO wins, he went in against Roger Mayweather for the WBC light welterweight title. Vinny was dealing with a taller opponent, but only made him more tenacious to get on the inside.
A lot of strength being used so far by both guys. I don't know, I just see Mayweather doing such a great job in defense, and I do mean great.
But I see Pazienza taking this round with his aggressiveness. There's no way you can call it for Mayweather. He isn't throwing anything.
Vinny was absolutely relentless in his attack, but Mayweather's defense, classically, was just too good. Vinny kept slugging, but Roger was just waiting for his moment.
On the mat for Pazienza to keep punching, but here comes Mayweather with a good combination.
Vinny tried, but Roger's defense was too slick, and after going the distance, he'd failed to capture his second world title, and for the first time perhaps realised that his come forward no matter what style was not going to work against the absolute elite boxers of the world. Paz instead sought out a guy called Kevin Rooney. If you know the name, it's because he's famous for working with legend Customato to train none other than Iron Mike Tyson. This guy was an old school coach who took Vinny and refined those fundamentals, took his drive and started to channel it into repetitions in the gym. Vinny was booked against Ron Amundsen for the IBF USBA light middleweight title, upper weight class where weight cuts were apparently no longer an issue, and he looked better than ever.
But he just said he was dehydrating, he was killing himself to make the weight, he felt weak and washed out when he entered the ring, and here they are scrambling in the middle.
Boy, beautiful work by Pazman here in this first round. He's moving around, he's throwing his hooks as he wants to, landing them, scoring, and then gets out.
Big right by Pazienza.
Vinny was looking for his openings, not forcing them, and he started to catch the champ.
Up and looks at some of the guys that have beat Pazienza. Camacho, Garza, and Mayweather. Says his guys beat him by boxing and jabbing, and that happens to be Amundsen's forte. Matter of fact, the Tasmanian Devil says that it was Rooney, really, who's been after him for the last couple of seasons to fight at the proper weight. Fifth round action, it has been all Pazienza.
Vinny was like lightning all over the ring that night, elusive and crashing forward with hellacious combos when he had his openings.
Heavier weight than he's ever been in the ring. 10 is gone, 11 and 12 over the horizon.
And Judge Sammartino scores it 118 to 110 for the new USBA Junior Middleweight Champion, Vinny the Tasmanian Devil Pazienza.
It was a leveling up from Vinny, who still had all the grit and determination, but now was using his ring IQ and strategy to once again become a world champion. But just as Vinny had found his stride again in boxing, that soon was all to be stripped away at the hands of a sudden and extreme tragedy. Just a few months after that win, Vinny was riding as a passenger in a friend's car on his way home from a gym training session. A driver came from the opposite side, drifted across their lane, and it ended with a head-on collision. It was devastating, and the car crumpled like tin foil. It left Vinny laying there, completely paralyzed, unable to move his head, waiting for the emergency services, not knowing if he'd make it that long, but also knowing his career as a fighter had to be over. At the hospital, they told him he'd fractured 2 of his vertebrae, his C2 and C3, 2 of the most important ones, and the ones that protect your spinal cord. The doctors straight up told him, "You are incredibly lucky to even be alive, and you will probably never walk again." But of course, this was Vinny Pazienza we're talking about, a kid that grew up always feeling like the underdog and who'd taken that frustration and channeled it into his fish and the will and power to crush everyone that had stood in front of him. They attached a halo brace, which is essentially a metal frame screwed directly 2 inches deep into his skull to keep his neck completely still. Apparently every breath, movement, cough was absolute agony down his spine. He was told obviously that his boxing career was over, which pretty much meant life as he knew it was over. But while they were telling him to accept retirement, he was already planning his comeback. Vinny found it impossible to sleep, so instead he started working out. Very small steps at first, then push-ups, then curls, until one night he went down to his basement and started shadowboxing. He kept training and training as his strength returned, fortified by his absolutely insane human will, and against every warning, against every ounce of logic, Vinny was determined to return to the ring. Famously, he said, "If I listened to them, I'd be in a wheelchair right now. Instead, I listened to my heart." Impossibly, in just over 1 year after breaking his neck, Vinny Paz walked back into the ring to face a legit contender, Luis Santana, and it was thought of as an absolutely insane thing to do. But as soon as the bell rang, every doubt everyone had completely vanished in an instant. It was the most insane comeback in perhaps the history of sport.
You can put the neck issue to rest. I made a great comeback. We can all talk about it.
But of course, Vinny wasn't satisfied with just coming back to the ring and winning after basically being completely written off. Lucky to be even alive. He wanted to reclaim his title, the belts that were stripped away from him when he was injured. And he went toe-to-toe with former champ Brett Lally and showed he was just as durable as ever. He stopped Lally and was lined up to face Dan Sherry for the vacant IBO super middleweight title. He impossibly also defeated Dan, and that set him up with the biggest fight of his career against a living legend, Roberto Duran, for the IBC super middleweight strap. And this fight turned into an all-out war, with Hands of Stone landing early.
Vinny's going to have to get a little closer during the next couple rounds.
And as he does, Duran waiting for that opportunity.
Inside against Paz, he's keeping his distance. Pazienza gets right back up to show Duran that it was a slip, and don't even think that you knocked me down.
But all that did was light a fire under Paz, who, after everything he'd been through, unloaded his entire arsenal at Duran.
Kevin Rooney changed his style.
Vinny looked again fast as lightning, his gas tank seemingly endless as he continued to rip through Roberto. When the dust settled and it was all over, Vinny had stood toe-to-toe with a living legend. Just a year after he'd broken his neck and been written off as dead, he had achieved something absolutely impossible, something we may never see again. He was once more a world champion.
And new IBC Super Middleweight Champion, Vinny the Pazienza Pazienza!
When you take a look back on the life of Vinny Paz, it reads less like a boxing career and more like a lesson in defiance. He wasn't the most technical fighter or even the most gifted, but he was proof that heart can carry you places talent never could. From the wild kid in Rhode Island to this brash champion to the man shadowboxing with bolts in his skull, Vinny's story is about refusing to let the world define your limits. Every fighter will face that moment, the one where the world tells you you're finished. Most listen. Vinny Paz didn't. And that's why, decades later, his story still stands as one of the greatest comebacks, not just in boxing, but in all of sports.